Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here at Kingston Christian Fellowship. I want to get right into it today. If you have your Bible with you, turn to Acts chapter 2. We talked last week a little bit about how God never intended the church to be about a stage and an audience. God never intended the church to be about a stage and an audience. In fact, the corporate gathering or the Sunday mornings, what we normally see as the church, was a smaller portion of what church was actually meant to be. And so, Acts chapter 2, you're probably there by now, verse 42 through to the end says this: They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common, selling their possessions and goods. They gave to anyone as he had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. What an awesome passage of scripture, and one of those biblical structures of how God has created the church to function. You know, this verse or this passage is strategically placed as the fruit of revival, as the fruit of a move of God, as a fruit from the best move of God when the Holy Spirit was poured out on all flesh. And it's often used, this passage, to talk about smaller gatherings. So just think about that. In the greatest revival that the world has seen, the small groups took center stage. Smaller gatherings took center stage, and they broke out into the community and they ministered to their community. But the glaring emphasis here is the meeting daily and meeting from house to house, these biblical patterns that are healthy for churches to participate in. It seems like the early church was structured so that the corporate meeting was in addition to meeting from house to house. But our Western culture has it backwards, in that the home groups are an addition to the Sunday meeting. You know, we always like to say that we are a church of life groups, not a church with life groups. Put an emphasis on the smaller gathering, the smaller home group gathering, because circles are better than rows. Remember, God never intended the church to be about a stage and an audience. His picture of the church is more organic, where every member fulfills its role, where every member is functioning, right? So to miss out on one or the other can actually leave needs unmet. Both the corporate meeting, yet still important, but the home meetings are just as important. Both have strengths, and you can't forfeit one for the other. We need both of these in operation, and we need to participate in both of these to be healthy disciples and to have a healthy church. So I want to look very quickly at three strengths of the corporate meeting and then three strengths of the home group meeting. And the first strength of the corporate meeting that I see is ministry from the fivefold: the apostles, the prophets, evangelists, the pastors, and the teachers. And if you look in Ephesians 4, verse 11, where that's written, it goes down to explain after Paul describes the fivefold ministry, the fruit of it. And it's like unity in the faith and the fullness of God. And it gives this incredible visionary picture of what the church was intended to be. And it's in there for a reason. It's in there under the fivefold ministry because that's what that governmental structure provides: the health in the body. So the corporate meeting, we come together to be ministered to by the fivefold ministry, to be encouraged, to be strengthened. Look, there's nothing wrong with coming to church to receive. There's nothing wrong with coming to be equipped, empowered, encouraged, and all these things, and that's okay. It's just, if that's the only expression of church that we have, then that's not okay. And so there's a strength to have the fivefold ministry model in operation in the corporate setting. The second, I just said it, is actually receiving. It's so important to come and receive ministry. Well, you may not have the opportunity to exercise your gift in the corporate meeting because there's so many people. It's very important that you have an opportunity to receive ministry. You know, Jesus said to the Father, he said, "What you have given me, I've passed on to them. So here's like a biblical principle and a biblical model. It's what you receive from heaven, you then give out to people. What you receive from God, right, you then give out to people. I remember one pastor saying one time that in the pulpit, what he does is he just breaks off a piece of his life and he gives it to the people in front of him. And so what the Lord has given us, we give you. And it's powerful, it's strong. And Jesus instructed us in this prayer, the Lord's Prayer. You all know it well, right? And he talks about daily bread. This slogan in there talks about daily bread, and we get the impression that receiving is actually a frequent thing. That being a receiver is something that happens daily, maybe even moment by moment, right? This life of receiving from God, of receiving love, joy, and peace, of receiving from his presence, of receiving from his spirit is so incredibly important. And here's the third strength of the corporate meeting, and it's that you focus on the macro, right? Not just the micro, but the macro. It's so easy for us in our personal Christianity to always look inward, to always be trying to fix ourselves or improve ourselves, or, we worry about ourselves. Where am I in this? How am I doing in this? How did I take the message? Right? And we get this focus on the micro. But what the corporate meeting does is it helps us focus on the macro, because one can put 1,000 to flight, but two can put 10,000 to flight. And so it's so important that we understand what we're accomplishing as a group, as a body, not just what you can accomplish as an individual and what your purpose and destiny is, but how you fit in the larger body and what your church has been called to accomplish in your city, in your town, in your communities. And so incredibly important to keep the focus on the macro so that you can operate and move together as one unit. Okay, here we go. The strengths of the home meeting give you opportunities for everyone to use their gifts. Now, look, I've also talked recently about using your gifts out in the community, right? You're only in church maybe 2 hours a week if it's just Sundays, maybe 4 hours a week if you're part of a life group or go to another meeting. Your gifts were meant to be used all the time, not just in church or with the church body, they were, but also outside in the community. You never have to turn your gifts off. You can use them all the time. And so there's definitely opportunity in the smaller group gathering. We call ours life groups. There's opportunity in life groups to use your gifting because of the smaller numbers. It's so good. Look, I did this calculation the other day. Hope I can remember it. If everybody, like the Bible says, came with a word, a hymn, right, a song, or something to the meeting, and say they took 3 minutes each person took 3 minutes, and say your church has, let's just say 100, makes it easy for my math, 100 people, that's 300 minutes, that's 5 hours of one church service that doesn't include a sermon or worship or announcements. That's 5 hours of people giving a 3 minute encouragement. Now, look, I can talk. I personally, I could talk for 3 minutes without a problem, right? I normally talk for 30, 40, 45 minutes without a problem, right? Most people can talk for three. That's 5 hour meeting. This is why the smaller gathering is needed, because it's more communal, it's more one-on-one, there's relationship building, right? So, okay, that, which is actually number two. The second strength of the small group gathering is a level of community and fellowship. It's extremely relational. Sundays actually aren't structured to accommodate deep connection in the manner that a life group is. Okay, Sundays are primarily about going vertical and about all the 3 points that I mentioned in the first part of this message. Hey, the focus on the macro and the ministry from the fivefold, and and receiving from God and receiving from the fivefold ministry. Right, that's the focus of Sundays. And so many people want to say, if relationship isn't happening on Sundays, then we need to change Sunday mornings. No, you don't, and you can't, because of all the benefits that Sundays already have. what you need and what the biblical model is that you have the corporate gathering, and it's strong and it's healthy and it's empowering, but you also have the strong and healthy home group ministry that's fulfilling the other needs. And when the two go hand in hand, it produces healthy disciples and healthy believers, and you see the fruit in your churches. And so, pastors, if you're listening, this is such a good, healthy model, biblically based, that you will definitely see fruit from. And I've got so many comments about this message and about just seeing the distinction and just seeing it on a PowerPoint and understanding the strengths of both of these ministries. Because you'll have people that rail against the small groups and love the corporate meeting. You'll have people that rail against the corporate meeting and love the small groups. But what we want to do is inform people and empower people that both are necessary. Okay, the third strength of small groups is the digestion of teaching material through conversation. That was a big title, wasn't it? Digestion of the teaching material through conversation. Look, on Sundays, there isn't an opportunity to ask questions or have dialogue about the material that is presented. Dialogue is so important to be able to digest material, because the preacher says something and you want to ask a personal question. And if there's 100 people sitting in front of you, there could be 100 different questions that need to be asked so that people can digest themselves and process it themselves, because everyone's looking at the material through their own lens, through their own perspective, through their own life experience. And so this is what the small group provides. You can ask questions, you can hash out things, you can work through things together. I want to share a little personal ministry philosophy with you. Something that I do personally is that I don't, or what I don't do is I don't speak about hot button topics from the pulpit. I usually stay away from politics and social issues because it is more beneficial to discuss those in groups or one-on-one so that personal questions can be addressed. It really does an injustice for me to stand up in the pulpit and spout off a few opinions without being able to talk about them face to face. And unfortunately, I see many preachers do this. They get up and they dogmatically talk about a certain subject, but it doesn't give their listener a chance to respond and ask questions. And all that is trying to exert your influence without thinking about the health of the sheep and how they can respond. And so, 30 minutes usually isn't enough time anyway to effectively present an idea, let alone a hot button issue. And so, messages from the pulpit, I guess this is the truth. Messages from the pulpit are more vulnerable to misinterpretation and the twisting of what is being said, because there can't be dialogue. And so, what I said about people coming from different backgrounds, having different life experiences, I could have people walk away and say, Adam, I love when you said that in your message the other week. And, I think back, it wasn't in my notes. I look at the recording, well, I never said that. But people will hear what they think you're saying or what they want you to say. And so, the pulpit becomes this place where you've got to be careful what you present, because it can be twisted, it can be misinterpreted, and then misrepresented from there. So anyways, that's just one of my own ministry philosophies. I'm more than happy to talk about hot button issues, but it's going to be one-on-one or in a small group setting where we can have dialogue and really digest what is going on. And so, yeah, anyways, last point, here we go, is the joy of community, right? So here we're talking about people that met daily in the temple courts, and from house to house they broke bread and did all these things. And so, you might ask the question, Adam, you're not asking me to start going to church daily, are you? How about that? I asked a question for you. Um, no, not necessarily. What I am saying is that we need to get back to a biblical model. We need to get back to a more biblical model. Look, I understand that Our North American culture, especially our industrial culture, has really tried to suck the time and energy out of us so that it's hard for us to participate fully in other things and life things and family things. There never seems to be enough time for family and friends and marriage and for all for self, for all these sorts of things, let alone the church, right? And you may say, Adam, I really don't have time for that. And the truth is, you do not have not time, not for that. It's so important that we engage in God's biblical models and what He's called the church to. And I wanna read this to you because it's so good. You know what, I got it in my notes. Acts 2, it says, everyone was filled with awe. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. Look, does this sound depressing, awkward, boring, or tiring? Or does this sound like a community that you want to be a part of? Every meeting, God designed and ordained and purposed that every meeting of the church will be filled with awe, would be filled with joy, would be filled with gladness, would be full of the favor of all the people and the favor of God. You're supposed to leave church encouraged, empowered, ready to go out and make an impact in your world. And if that's not what's happening, then you're not having true biblical community. You're not engaging in Acts 2 type community, right? Because this is God's design, that everybody's filled with awe because God is so incredible, that there's gladness, joy, and favor. Now, that's a community that you don't mind participating in, that you don't mind giving something up once a week to go to that instead of going to what you used to go to. Instead of watching, this TV show, you want to participate in that kind of community. Look, when the church gets back to the Acts 2 model, and these things are experienced in our church, then you'll hear nobody say, I don't have time for that. You'll hear people say, I've got to be there because it's going to be an awesome time, because we're not sure what God's going to do, because it's so exciting. Look, I want to finish today by reading this quote by Robert Capon, a fellow from New York. He passed away 6 or 7 years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's pretty awesome. He says, we are in a war between dullness and astonishment. The most critical issue facing Christians is not abortion, not pornography. It's not the disintegration of the family, moral absolutes. It's not MTV, drugs, racism, sexuality, or school prayer. The critical issue today is dullness. We have lost our astonishment. Remember Acts 2 talked about the awe? They were filled with awe. All right, back to the quote. The good news is no longer good news. It is okay news. Christianity is no longer life-changing. It is life-enhancing. Jesus doesn't change people into wild-eyed radicals anymore. He changes them into nice people. If Christianity is simply about being nice, I'm not interested. What happened to radical Christianity? The unnice brand of Christianity that turned the world upside down. What happened to the category smashing, life threatening, anti institutional gospel that spread through the first century like wildfire and was considered by those in power dangerous? What happened to the kind of Christians whose hearts were on fire, who had no fear, who spoke the truth no matter what the consequence, who made the world uncomfortable, who were willing to follow Jesus wherever he went? What happened to the kind of Christians who were filled with passion and gratitude and who every day were unable to get over the grace of God? I'm ready for a Christianity that ruins my life, that captures my heart and makes me uncomfortable. I want to be filled with an astonishment which is so captivating that I am considered wild and unpredictable and, well, dangerous. Yes, I want to be dangerous to a dull and boring religion. I want a faith that is considered dangerous by our predictable and monotonous culture. Wow, there's a picture of what God has called the church to be. Thank you for joining us today. God bless you, and we'll see you soon.